Welcome, everybody, to the Digital Nomad Experts podcast by Beach Commute. Today, we've got Jeff and Marissa, and we're going to talk about when to go where, the best and worst times to visit every region as a digital nomad. So this was a little bit difficult to pull together because we were going to talk about, where do you go during winter? Well, winters mean different things to different people depending on where you are. So we figured what we'd do, and this list got a little unwieldy because we started thinking about the top digital nomad locations and then trying to figure out, okay, how do we figure out when's a good time to go there? And we thought about, okay, weather. And then we're like, oh yeah, but what about tourism? Then we're like, oh, okay, what about bugs? And so now we've got like this massive, I don't know, it almost feels like we should create a guide, like some sort of written guide, because it's like way too many factors into this. So we did our best to consolidate it all down to just like, here's when you go, here's when you don't go, and we'll try to explain some of those factors the best we can and keep this under 14 hours. But other than that, I think we've got a pretty solid list of when and where to go and when to avoid places. So, Marissa, this came from one of our listeners. What did they say?
Yeah, so we love this email. And by the way, I'm going to read you this. And if you have other topics you want to write in, we are creating a whole podcast episode simply because someone asked. We really love to do this. Your questions matter. And if you don't ask, you might never know. So send us hello@beachcommute.com if you got a specific topic. And I'm going to read this one real quick. So it says, hello, Beach Commute. I've been listening to your podcast for a few years now. We love that. Thank you, Kayla. She said, I think I listened to pretty much every episode, which we also love. Thank you so much for creating it. Absolutely love it. And she says, I'm hoping to leave for my first trip in August and has been using the Anywhere Atlas to find a travel position, which is so amazing. So when Kayla asked, she said, I was wondering if you guys could do an episode on the pros and cons of different times of year to travel to different places. For example, when is the best time of year weather-wise to travel to South America or Asia? Thank you again for making such a wonderful resource. All right. We love this. One, love that you've been listening to podcasts for so long. Two, love that you literally listen to this and are changing your life to start to travel. Three, you are using the Anywhere Atlas. So for anyone listening, if you're not sure what that is, you can go to beachcommute.com/atlas, and it's a database of all of the work from Anywhere companies that we have found, vetted, and put together that actually give you permission to travel anywhere in the world, not just remote from whatever country they want to restrict you to. So if you're listening to this and you're like, you want to travel to all the places all over the world, definitely go in, sign up. You can start saving all your favorite companies, start applying, and get a remote job and start to travel. So with that, Jeff, what are we thinking?
Okay, with that, let's go to the place everyone wants to go.
Well,
I would say a little bit of a mistake. I agree. I think it's also a mistake. As a digital nomad, maybe a mistake. Western Europe. And so by Western Europe, I'm thinking of Italy, France, Spain, maybe the UK. Is that Western Europe?
Germany, Netherlands,
Ireland. Yeah, all that stuff.
Scotland, all those.
It gets a little gray in the middle there. It's like, is Czech Republic, Western Europe? I don't know.
Oh, good point.
Yeah.
I feel like,
ish.
but we'll add it into the places
Central.
I feel like people, want to be going towards Prague and Budapest, all those places. All right, so what are your thoughts,
I think
Jeff?
we're going to lump these
best times to go.
Yeah, out of these, when I say Western Europe, I know Western Europe is not a country, but I think we can lump them together for a few different reasons. One, most of Western Europe is very, very close. Like most of the places that you want to go in Western Europe are a very short plane ride away. And because of that, the weather is going to be fairly similar across the board for most of the major places that people want to go. And I think the tourism is also going to be pretty similar, probably for that same exact reason. So what we would suggest, and we've been through Western Europe, I've been there in winter, spring, summer, fall. I've been there in every season. And I would say that ideally you'd want to go during the shoulder seasons. And by shoulder season, I mean like not between, what would you say, Marissa, like May through August would be the prime time when everybody is there?
Yeah, will you explain what shoulder season means? And then we'll talk about like why, typically if there was like no people and cost wasn't a thing, like you probably want to go during that's, the summer in Europe, which is that May, June, July kind of time that the weather is beautiful and the crowds are popping for a reason. But what is shoulder season for someone who's never heard that term?
Yeah, so the prime season is when everybody typically goes because the weather's great. And the shoulder season is just outside of that, where I'd say The weather is still good. It's still nice to be there. It's not too cold, not too hot. But all the tourists haven't overrun it. And it's a shoulder because it's kind of short. Generally, a shoulder season's like a month in either direction, coming
Yeah.
up into the cold or
Otherwise, you
into
get
the
too
warm
cold,
season.
too rainy, too dark. Yeah.
Exactly. It's kind of like the little hidden gems in time when you can go to a place where you've got just a small little window where it's not overrun, but it's still fairly nice. So I'd say in Western Europe, depending on where you're going, the shoulder season would probably be like April, May, and then coming off. Actually, I had some really good months around September, October when I was in, what was it? I was in Prague. I was in
Was it Romania?
Italy. Yeah, we were in Romania around September too. I
Yeah.
think it was like September, October, and it was actually pretty nice. I'd say Romania's a little different because it's Eastern Europe and
Middle Eastern.
there aren't
Yeah.
any crowds. There are people rushing to
You can
go
go
to
whenever
Romania.
you want to Romania.
And any given, yeah, just go whatever you want. Like nobody's gonna bother you, and you're not gonna be elbow to elbow with people, but you will be. A good example was I think you went to, let's use Prague, right? Yeah, I think you went to Prague in peak season, if I remember right, around. Oh,
That
maybe you
was
didn't.
after Romania. It was into that October.
Oh
It was late
yeah, okay.
September, October time. I was doing that whole trip, and it
Mm-hmm.
got cool. And then I ventured into Eastern Europe. So I feel like we can kind of bucket. I don't know. Those are similar as well with some little changes. I want to talk about Europe kind of as a whole because I feel like as a
Yeah.
latitude, like you're getting similar, winter and summer weathers. So I did two major road trips as Nomad through both more kind of like, well, I would say they're all kind of Eastern Central-ish, but I did one in April that started like Croatia, like Bosnia. Where else was I? Like Kosovo,
You went to a
Macedonia,
lot of
like
places
all
in
through
that trip.
there. And it was chilly. Like it was late April, May, probably at that point, or like towards, I guess it was probably like in April, and it was getting chilly. Like I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
really, it was still cool. If you're not someone who loves hot weather, like I love the hot tropical things. Like I'm from Atlanta and I love the humidity where most people like, get me the fuck out of here. So I might be a little biased. So some people is probably ideal weather. To me, I was like, it's cold. I'm wearing too many layers. I can't wear shorts. It's chilly. So I didn't love that. But if you like that sort of in between weather, you might like Croatia and that time. However, I think about Croatia as like going to the islands and the sparkly water and like people swimming on boats, and it was like, I'm not getting in this water. So it depends on what you're looking for at that shoulder season. And then I also did the other flip side where September was really nice through Eastern Europe. So that's when we did Romania. I did a little bit of Prague and what else? I was in Budapest, like some of those places, and it was actually nice in September. So I would say that
It's
was
really
like the
nice, actually.
perfect
It's pretty
window.
ideal.
Yeah, where it's like not too
Yeah.
hot, the crowds are not as intense, so accommodations are better priced. However, I kept going into October through like Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and I was ready to
It
get the
changes
fuck out of
quick.
there. It was
Yeah.
gray and
Oh
dark
yeah.
and cold and rainy, and I was unhappy. So that's my personal like
Yeah.
come October, don't do it. Get out, get out. It gets yeah.
You really can't appreciate enough what a gray sky
Oh,
Europe has. It
oh my
is
God.
just,
Yeah.
it is depressing. It is very,
Yeah.
very, and it happens like that. All of a sudden, it's like, wow, this is fucking miserable. And I think it really, really is important for us to emphasize both. If you miss that shoulder season, how miserable it is and how much you may not enjoy it. I mean, you're going from a t-shirt to layers and layers and layers very, very quickly, and it's
Yeah.
it's not particularly nice. I was in Germany around February. I was also, oh yeah, I was actually in January, February. I mean, we're talking cold, cold, really, really cold. And so in the off season, people aren't going there for a reason. And then if you go there during, we did want to emphasize not going there during peak season, because I mean, when we're talking about crowds, I'm talking about crowds, like way too many people. You're battling way too many people. The prices get jacked way up. Like your
Yeah.
hotels, you might be paying double for, maybe
Yeah.
even more than double for. I mean, that's significant, especially if you're going to be a digital nomad and you're going to live somewhere for a reasonable period of time. It's just going to eat through your bank account. It's one of the reasons we don't even recommend Western Europe to start as
Yeah.
a digital nomad
But
because you
that
can just go
said,
burn
I
right through
feel
it.
like a lot of our friends, our digital nomad friends, still love European summers. Like they're still doing it. So
I
it's
know. Who are these people? What are they doing?
I don't know.
So this,
You did it for some. Weren't you in you did
mm-mm.
Barcelona or maybe not during summertime?
I did Barcelona, I think in August, and then we ran
So
through into Eastern Europe. So yeah, we did like
yeah.
a month there, and then we ended up in Italy in the shoulder season. So
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah. So
really spent
think
a
about
time
it.
during Prime.
Yeah, so I guess that's to say, like, think about your budget, think about what you want. So, like, the most beautiful, perfect times are probably those summer months. It can get a little hot in some places, but we do have nomad friends doing it. So if you
Hmm.
want and you're dreaming about those European summers and you're okay with the price tag, go do it. But do know that like right before and right after, you'll get just a little bit better prices, fewer crowds. It's a different experience, but just I guess depends what you want for your budget. The other two things I want to mention here is one, Portugal, I feel like is kind of this shining little star in Europe that is like it gets a little chillier, but like almost year round, you can find digital nomads there more in the summer, spring, fall, but it stays warmer than like a lot of the rest of Europe. So people love Lisbon and Porto for that. And the only other reason I can think to intentionally go during the winter, actually two reasons. One, some people will go to Europe to visit the Christmas markets around like Germany, Austria. If you're looking for like a seasonal festive kind of feel, you might intentionally go to the dark, cold, but like holiday cheer. And the other reason you might go to Iceland or to some of the Nordic countries, Sweden, Finland, is potentially to go in the winter and see the Northern Lights. So that is an option as well. But for the most part, those are more like one-off, more vacation-y trips and not like I'm going to live for a month or two or three as a nomad.
They do have in Norway those igloo things to go see
Hmm.
the Northern Lights. It's like a transparent igloo. I've always wanted to do that. That looks so cool.
Yeah, definitely worth it. I once went to like way northwest Canada. Like I felt like I was almost like at the
Hmm.
North Pole. It was so cold. And I didn't see the Northern Lights, but I have gone to do it. I will go back, and but yeah, so consider that. But otherwise, yeah, I think that gives the gist on both Western, Eastern Europe. You don't have to worry as much about crowds and prices. So summer, fall, and those shoulder seasons are also you can do more summer in Eastern Europe. That crowds and prices don't matter as much, but that's the gist of Europe.
Yeah, but with Eastern Europe, I guess the main thing is you're really not going to battle the crowds. I never did. You will be battling the heat and the cold. I think it's a little bit more extreme in my experience. The hot in the summer in like Armenia and Georgia, and that was actually fall, was
Yeah,
uncomfortably hot. I was like, I do not like this. Like hot, like you don't even like
yeah,
dry city hot, not tropical hot. It's just
yeah,
no water in sight and hot. Not fun. And then in Eastern Europe, when it gets cold, it gets cold, you know. So again, you probably want to tackle the shoulder seasons for both of those. Are we missing anything from Eastern Europe?
I feel like that's the main part. You had mentioned some
Let's go.
times where it gets like really, really hot, but in some countries. But other than that, I think we're good. All right, next we have got Africa. And we're going to talk about this is a huge region. There's so many different things to consider with heat, with rain, with maybe the best seasons for safaris to view animals. But we're just going to cover a couple of countries specifically that are most popular for digital nomads. So, Egypt is a popular one. This is, we'd say, October through April for a little bit cooler weather, so you don't get too hot there. Late September and early May would be the sort of shoulder seasons there, maybe fewer crowds, a little bit better costs and all of that. But that October through April, especially like if you want to go to some of the places by the Red Sea, great for diving when the water's not too cold. Hussein is our podcast editor. He is in Egypt. I hope we're saying this right for you. You probably have better recommendations than we do, even more specifically. But as a whole, again, think about wherever you live. Like everything is so nuanced from, state to state, place to place. So again, do your research. But we hope by the end of this episode, you'll start to see some themes of the things to look out for are kind of like weather, crowds, and I say weathers and temperatures, hot, cold, and then also rainy season. So if somewhere stays pretty consistent temperatures all year, most likely they've got a wet and a dry season. So start to do some research, but we hope this gives you kind of overall trends. So
Mm.
that's Egypt. You want to give us South Africa, Namibia sort of feel, Jeff?
Oh yeah, and the water also means bugs. Keep that in mind. Don't if you don't like
By
the
by water, you mean rainy season?
yeah, exactly. I do know some travelers that absolutely cannot stand mosquitoes. Like you can see them get physically angry when you talk about mosquitoes. It's so funny to me. I know
So they're
that,
going
like
to
when
the
they're around,
polar
it's like
dry places.
just like throwing them bug spray. But some people just get like upset. They're like, oh, I hate mosquitoes. I'll mention that when it becomes like a thing in our conversation here today. So yeah, let's go to South Africa area, Namibia area. Typically, people start going there, I'd say around beginning mid-November or so, because that's turning into their summer, and it gets really, really pleasant, and then it gets pretty hot. Like I'd say when I was there in January, it was really hot, but it wasn't like uncomfortably hot. I don't think it ever really gets to a point where it's like I can't stand this. The only thing that you would note is that around January through February, it's when it's like peak crowds. It's when
Prices,
there's
accommodation
oh
prices are
yeah,
double
just
what they are in the winter.
way. Yeah,
Easily.
exactly. So I did January through I think I left at the end of March, and I think that was ideal. Around maybe February through the end of March was perfect because people started clearing out a little bit, prices started going down, and then it wasn't quite so hot. But then once you get to the end of March, it starts getting really windy and the rain starts coming in, and it's just after April, forget about it. You kind of everybody just abandons ship and heads out of there for good reason. It just starts getting uncomfortably cold, and like you've kind of lost the season completely. So
I feel like it's
in
a quick
summer,
turn. There's
well,
like
no.
not really
Oh
a
yeah,
shoulder season there. It's just like you do those and then you
mm-mm.
don't.
And then you're out. Yeah, by what did I say? Like the end of April, maybe even I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe even earlier than that. Would you say?
Earlier, I was in Namibia in March and it was fantastic. And then I went
Yeah.
onward to South Africa and like most people had left. I knew a couple people still there. It was just made sense on my journey price wise and where I was headed. I think I was there in mid-April, sort of late April, and it was cold and it was
It's a little
windy and it
late.
was some rainy days. It was kind of gray sometimes. It wasn't pleasant. So I would say
Mm.
like maybe the first week of April and then like it starts heading south quickly. So just yeah, jump out of there. But that's again one where you're gonna have higher prices and it's there for a reason. Most people don't want to spend the wintry months there. Even our South African friends, I feel like a lot of
Sometimes they
them
leave.
leave else too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
that's
where's
South
next?
Africa, Namibia. The Kenya, sort of Tanzania area is next. Again, there's so many places to go. Not all places in Africa are popular digital nomad locations yet. Kenya, I feel like I never say this right. It's like Watamu is sort of like a beachy island place where people have started to nomad more. Tanzania, you'll find people in Zanzibar. So most people go here June through September. So it's still that same sort of like what we think of as summer, North American summer sort of months. But you get the great balance of like good weather, outdoor activities, as Jeff said, fewer bugs. January through March, good time for beaches in Zanzibar. And then people say to avoid March if you're staying long term, where rains can start to come and cause some power disruptions. Mostly if you're more on like the islandy places, Zanzibar, probably not as much if you're in a place like Nairobi in Kenya. But again, do your research here on rainy season. And specifically, I always think about there's definitely some better times to go for safari. But I feel like most people as nomads, like you're just kind of going during the good temperature seasons, and there's always safari viewing to do, in my opinion.
Mm.
It depends, I guess, if you want to watch the Great Migration and stuff like that through
What's the Great Migration?
the Great Migration. So in I saw it in Kenya a lot of years ago, but there's a couple places where a bunch of the animals will like migrate through like in giant herds through certain places. And it's just really cool to
Oh,
witness.
amazing.
Yeah, so there's definitely if you're going to Africa for safari specifically,
Mm.
do research that. Do reach whatever time you're like whatever country you want to go to, research the best time of year specifically to go for that. But those are just some kind of like general guidelines, more for nomad life, less for specific like safari viewing.
Do they have good Wi-Fi in Kenya at this point? Because I remember that was like one of the limiting factors when I talked to people a few years back,
Yeah,
maybe like
they
5
seem
years
to
ago.
be making it work now. I
Hmm.
feel like a year ago, we had some Wi-Fi tribe friends in Watamu, and they were like, it was a little bit of a nightmare. It was cut in and
Mm.
out. I think they figured it out a little bit better this year. There's some Wi-Fi tribe people there right now, just finishing a chapter. So I think it's a little bit better. In Nairobi, I feel like it's definitely more advanced than it used to be a while ago, like if you're in the city. So it's still hit or miss. And I feel like if you get storms and rainy seasons, it definitely impacts like your Wi-Fi goes out when it's like cloudy kind of thing. It used to be that way in Costa Rica a while ago. It's so much better there now. But yeah,
Mm.
definitely do some research on the Wi-Fi during those situations as well. The last place I want to talk about in Africa, which you might not think about as much, is places like Mauritius. Like you get those little islands off the coast of Africa. And really you want to think about cyclones here. I didn't learn until I was there and I had 3 cyclones coming through that it's the same word for what is it? It was cyclone, hurricane. What's the third
I
one?
think we tsunami. Is that it?
Not a tsunami. That's
Mm.
the waves. But whatever. There's a third one. But
Yeah.
I didn't realize it just meant they're the exact same thing. It just means like where it
Typhoon.
started. Typhoon. That's the word. That's the
Hmm.
one. So I only learned 2 years ago. I thought they were just like different weather pattern, like some sort of different like cycling pattern or wind pattern or something. But they're the exact same thing. It just depends on where it originates, what it's called. So do Google cyclones if you are curious about when not to go to some of those smaller islands. I was there in February and we had a couple. So it says the best time to go is May through December, and or yeah, that's kind of best times there. January through March is cyclone season, and then July through August can be a little bit windier. That's Mauritius specifically, but again, we hope that part of this is just helping you think of what to even consider, because I would never have even researched like when is cyclone season. I would just be like, is it hot? Is it cold? Before I had traveled and knew anything. So again, this will just get the cogs turning. So when you're thinking about whatever country you want to go to, this will give you some general themes for each continent, but just some things to consider. So with that, I want to touch real briefly on the Middle East. The Middle East still is not as popular of a digital nomad trek. We have some friends who did like the Mongolia and some places in the summertime. I feel like you're not going to hit the crowds. It's not the same way as Europe there. So I feel like summer, we're talking about like North American summers, is still like a pretty traditional good time there. One thing I did want to mention for places like UAE, so if you're thinking about going to Dubai, which actually is still a pretty hot spot for digital nomads, especially there's some tax savings that a lot of business owners as digital nomads will get residency or stay for a while in Dubai. So do note it gets hot AF in the summers
Hmm.
in the Middle East. So Dubai, November through March is the prime time there. I think I went in December when I was there and it was like amazing. It was felt like summer, but not super hot summer. So it's like in the winters, in our typical winters, it's just like awesome there. But in the summers, you're like talking in the hundreds. Same with Oman. It's not yet a super popular digital nomad spot, but I feel like it's one of the most underrated countries in the world. If you want to check out the Middle East, definitely start in Oman. Highly recommend it. And I was there in November. It was amazing. It was beautiful. But if you're going to go in the summer, you are going to be like sweating and melting in the 100+ degrees Fahrenheit.
Ooh,
So yeah, just think
rough.
about temperatures when you're thinking Middle East.
Mm.
With that, Jeff, you want to start touching on South America?
Yeah, South America, I thought would be a little easier than it was. I mean, because just by default in my brain, I thought their winter is North American summer and vice versa. So you just go down to South America in our winter, around, say, November through, same thing as Cape Town, like November through, say, March or something like that. But it's not necessarily the case that depending on the region you go to, that might not exactly be true. So let me give you an example here. Argentina, Buenos Aires. I thought that you would want to get. I went in, what was it, January, February, and I thought that was the ideal time, but it isn't necessarily. It's almost like another one of those instances where you would want to pick out a shoulder season because in January and February, again, you kind of ran into bigger crowds and more specifically, the weather was really, really hot. It was that like really muggy city hot, and then we had
Mm,
that that crazy wave of like mosquito hatchings where there
I
was just
forgot you just talked about
that
that.
was it was just covering our windows.
Oh,
That was a little bit unusual for sure, but also just during that time they have an ungodly amount of mosquitoes, and it was just a little bit more uncomfortable. So it's actually a little bit more recommended to do around September through November, and then come back March through May, because you don't get that extreme heat, and you still get kind of like more pleasant, like 70 to 80 degrees instead of 90 and super humid and muggy. So it turns out I actually kind of did it wrong. When you went, when did you go?
I
What
think
time of
it
year?
was I was I think October, and then I remembered I was there over Halloween. So I was there in October, and it was
Mm-hmm.
great. It was like I feel like
That's
it's
supposed to be it.
not too hot,
The
not too
sweet spot.
cold, just sort of perfect. Maybe a light jacket sometimes, but it was, and especially because I'm not there
Yeah.
to be in a tropical swimming, whatever. It's more of that city vibe, so it feels good when it's so hot and sweltering. And it was really nice in October.
Yeah, it's okay when you're in a beach town now, because I'm just, wearing a tank top and it can sweat. But when you're in a city and you're
Yeah,
sweating
it's like New
in your
York in the
clothes and your
summer.
shirt,
No, thank you.
you've got no beach to go to. It's like that. This is just kind of. I don't want to just sweat at 10 in the morning in a city. That's just kind of
Yeah,
gross.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a different vibe. So if you can avoid that, you probably should. Okay, so we've also got Peru. If we think of Peru, I mean, there's a lot of people are going to go there for some hiking, a little bit of sightseeing while they're working. This shoulder seasons in Peru would be May and September, so you got kind of two prime months where you would like have a combination of decent weather for hiking and not huge tourist crowds. I think that's one of the main things that you really, really want to avoid there is just massive tourism to go through, like say Machu Picchu and things like that. And they're already having lots and lots of problems with that anyways. So if you can avoid that, you're probably going to want to. And then on top of that, you want to think November through March is a particularly rainy season. And if you are looking for hiking, it probably won't even be open depending on where you're going. And if it was, it might be kind of miserable. I don't particularly like rain unless it's in Costa Rica and it comes for like a crazy torrential downpour for an hour and then goes away. That's great. But if it's day long raining, no, that's not why I became a digital nomad.
Yeah, I went in
Um,
June, I think, and it was like
yeah.
chilly at night sometimes, but like pretty beautiful otherwise during the day. It's sunny and
Mm,
nice. Yeah.
nice. Patagonia. Let's talk a minute about that because that seems to be you've done Patagonia before, right?
Yeah, so I went, I think, in April, which is, as Jeff will say, not the right time to go. I can't remember why I went that time, but it was cold. Like it was cold. It was like too many
Mm,
layers. It was still beautiful, but I would say it wasn't the best. So Patagonia is like you think about half of it's in like Chile, you got the other half in Argentina. November through March is the best time to go get those beautiful mountain hikes in, see the glaciers and the glaciary lakes. So beautiful place, but I feel like when you go the wrong season, it gets kind of cold and not so fun.
mm-hmm. And then you've got accessibility problems. Like if you're going to do Patagonia during their dead of winter, I don't think you can even get in there, right?
That I don't know. I haven't tried, but I
Mm,
just feel like yeah, hiking in the winter there would. I don't know if you can. I don't feel like it'd be fun, but I just
yeah.
remember being in some like rainy rain jacket, cold, layering up, and being like, why am I here this
Yeah.
season? But it's still really
Yeah.
pretty.
What am I doing here? Okay, let's go to Brazil. In Brazil, the ideal times are this is again a little bit more crowd and specifically weather dependent type of recommendation. April to June is probably a little better because once you get into July and August, it's just sweltering, humid, lots of crowds. And then again, if you get into the fall, I guess coming into their spring season, September through November, a little bit more pleasant temperatures, fewer crowds. The only thing is with this recommendation, April, June, September, November, you would miss Carnival, which is usually end of February, early March,
I
depending
feel
on
like
the
I've
year,
been
something like
seeing the
that.
last week our Instagram friends, everyone's doing
Yeah,
some carnival things, and it's
that's a
March
big
when
draw.
we're
That's one of
recording
the
this
main
now.
reasons.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's one of the main reasons people go there. But also, I mean, people that are going for Carnival aren't looking to avoid crowds,
you're
and
looking for the crowds.
you're looking for the crowds, and you're not necessarily worried about the heat or anything because you're just kind of there to
Not wearing
party.
very
So
much clothing.
not wearing clothing. Yeah, you just walk around wearing beads and stuff. And if that's yeah, I mean, you're gonna be totally fine. But if you're looking to stay for a month as a digital nomad, yeah, you might want to take that one into consideration. Last up, I've got Colombia, and I would say out of like all the places, anytime is probably it's not really gonna change much.
What
The
is it?
main
No, it's like
places,
the eternal spring in Medellin.
yeah, it's the city of eternal spring, and for a reason that the weather never changes throughout the year. The average temperature fluctuation on a month by month basis from their winter to summer changes by 1 degree Fahrenheit, and the only
That's
difference
so
is
wild.
it's so wild. You might get a little bit more rain during certain parts of the year than others, maybe, but probably not. And then
But
even then,
isn't
it's
it
that
only from like 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. or something? It's like
yeah,
just a very specific afternoon shower. And it's like, okay, that's done.
massive thunderstorms, torrential downpours, and it's gone. And then sun's back out again. So, I mean, Medellin is probably where you're going to go in Colombia to be a digital nomad 90% of the time and just go anytime, really, because it's always going to be the same. Other places people go to, I guess some people go to Bogota. I wouldn't recommend going there. It's not great. It's Bogota is colder. It's like San Francisco weather year round, which is not a good draw. It's a little bit dangerous. So I don't know. It's not my honest place. And then some people go
People keep
to
trying to go to Cartagena and keep saying, don't do it.
stop it.
It's a touristy weird place. Don't do it. Go
It's a
for a
trap.
day if you must, a day or two, and leave.
If you
Go to the
must,
jungle.
maximum 1 day. Some people go to Santa Marta.
Mhm.
And that's going to be similar year round too. I think you might also run into a little bit of like rainy season and maybe some whatchamacallit, some cyclones or whatever. But I honestly, even that, I don't think people spend a ton of time as a digital nomad. So yeah, I'd
Yeah, I feel like
say
Medellin
Colombia,
is like that
that's the one.
popular. It's a crazy digital. It's just you will always find digital nomads there all the time. We have a couple of friends there now. It's
Do
just I
we?
feel like it's one of the only
Oh, Jim's there.
places. Jim's there. He's not on
Yeah.
Instagram very often, but I feel like it's one of the only places that is just like year round, minus like an hour of afternoon rainstorms. It's like it's almost never changes. Everywhere else either has rain, dry, hot, cold, some more, I think about Los Angeles maybe is
Mm.
closer, but it's still got some fluctuations in weather at night more so. I feel like Medellin is like this magical little like fairyland in the middle of like the only one in the world. I don't know. There's got to be somewhere else like it, but
Yeah.
I can't think of one.
It hit this little Goldilocks zone of climate that just, yeah, it's just never changes.
Bizarre. All
Hmm.
right. So that's some places in South America to think about. We're going to move onward to Central North America. So Costa Rica. I know I talk a ton about Costa Rica because I spent a lot of my time there. Do not go if you are looking to not be in the rain in October, like really, I would say September, October are the rainiest seasons. But as you get into late August, you'll start getting some afternoon thunderstorms. Those are the kind, as Jeff said, it's actually kind of enjoyable if you're working. You don't mind being inside. It comes, it goes, it's fine. But when you get into September, I was actually there all of October there, knowing this year it was the rainy season. I was like, I don't care. I'm just here to work. I don't need to be at the beach. It was gorgeous, like all of October. And then normally November, it starts to get beautiful. And it was like pouring for the first half of November. So I do really believe like global warming is shifting everything sometimes by a couple weeks, sometimes a month or so. The patterns are not exactly what they used to be. So it's hit or miss. But if you're going typically in January, February, March to Costa Rica, those are going to be your best months. But I was there in January and February this year. And in the past, like if you ask anybody, January and February could almost guarantee like it will not rain a drop. Like you will have exactly
Hmm.
perfect weather with no clouds, no rain. And this year it wasn't raining a ton, but it rained every now and then. So weather patterns are changing. Be mindful. You could get there and have something different. But anyway, the point of that is Jan, Feb, March are the best. April, May, still good. As you get into June, July, August, it's going to start to get a little hotter in Costa Rica. It's going to get rainier towards the end of that, like August, and then get into rainy season. November, December are great there too. They're just like Christmas is crazy high tourist season price wise. So people go there for the holidays. Be mindful of that. So that's Costa Rica. You want to do Mexico since you are there right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, and we have to split up Mexico into different regions because Mexico is huge and the climates are so completely different. I mean, you've got huge mountain ranges, you've got high elevation, you've got coast, you've got way up north, way up south. So I think we're just gonna split it into like four main regions. First one, Mexico City. Mexico City, being that it's in the center and it's high elevation, you're not gonna have a ton of fluctuations like some of the other places. So like in any given month, you're gonna be between say 70 degrees Fahrenheit up to maybe 80 degrees Fahrenheit. The only differences are during our North American winter, say November through February or so. It gets a little bit colder at night. And then the only other difference is that in the summer, you get the most rain in Mexico City. It's still not a ton, but you will get more rain. So it's worth considering. But that's a pretty good default. You can go there pretty much anytime and you're going to be mostly fine. And I don't think that the tourism changes too much throughout the year. You might get a little bit less during the winter, I would say. Okay, here, Puerto Escondido. This one is a little bit more, rangy in temperature. So people typically come here. It's a little rangy, yeah. November through April. Past April, it's going to get on the rangy side of things. I'm going to bring it up right now.
What do you mean by rangy?
A wider range of fluctuation. I don't know. Something like that.
That's a new one.
Yeah, it'll start getting hotter, more humid, especially at night, and it might be a little bit more uncomfortable. And then around August, September, you start getting the only times, or maybe June through October, you get the only times where it'll actually rain. The average rainfall between November and April is 0 days. I've seen like a few clouds since I've been here for a month and a half, so it's it's like
You've been there February, March this year.
I've been there, January, starting in January, and now, it's now March.
Almost 2 months.
So,
wow.
Yeah, and it's just like same every single day, so it's perfect. Okay, Oaxaca City. I would say you probably want to go October through April because two things: it gets really, really hot in the summer, and you get a little bit more rain, similar to Mexico City. Though I would say with a note for if you're going for Dia de los Muertos, the crowds and the prices are going to be way jacked up. So you have to plan that way in advance. And again, similar to like Carnival, you're going there for the crowds and the fun and everything that's going on. So it's just like baked in. If you want to go for Dia de los Muertos, great. If you don't want to go and you land in October, you're not going to have a good time. So keep that in mind. Like that is the city. The city becomes Dia de los Muertos. And there are parties in the street. There are jacked up prices. There are people everywhere. And that's just kind of the way it goes. And I think it's a great thing. It's definitely worth going for, but worth being mindful of. And then last we've got Playa. All I know about Playa from what I looked up, and you can comment on this because you've like half lived there, is around summer, June, July through maybe early winter, late October. It says that is technically monsoon season. Is that what you've seen?
Yeah, I was there. I think it was October one year when we had 3 hurricanes come in the span of a couple of weeks. So it's hard to say exactly when those will come. Playa is kind of a place that you can be year round. Weather-wise, it's always hot and nice. I would say if you have an aversion to the heat, people do like to get out of there, kind of like that late June, especially July, August. It just gets swelteringly hot where you walk outside and you're like, I want to get back to air conditioning now. So I love a lot of people like January. I spent a lot of time there in January, February, March. It's really beautiful. Yeah, the hurricanes are kind of hard to say. Like you could go for a week or two and have beautiful weather, or it could be like hurricanes and winds and the Wi-Fi shuts, it's whatever. But I have a lot of digital nomad friends who have landed there as their year-round place to be. So it's definitely doable. I feel like most of them leave more so for just hot weather in the winter, and then you just because the monsoons and the hurricanes are sort of variable. Like you could be totally fine, but you're going to be really hot in the middle of the summer. So take that as you will. I love the heat, and I was there. I've only been there a couple times, and I went in June last year for a little bit, and it was actually fine. So July, August gets hot. But yeah, that's Mexico. But you can be in Playa pretty much year round if you want.
Okay, U.S. and Canada?
Jeff's words were just don't go.
Don't. I mean, how are you going to live? Where do you live as a digital nomad in the U.S. and Canada? I went to Montreal for a little bit, and that was fun. You definitely don't want to go like any time past October because it just becomes frighteningly cold and everybody moves underground. People go to Austin, I guess.
Austin.
Sometimes,
We have some
but
friends.
there's no
Lisa
full
and
time, I
Murray
guess.
came to like New Orleans for a month
Yeah,
once. Maybe some people might go to Florida, but especially just I don't know, winters here. Why
yeah.
be here? Just
It's
leave.
expensive.
Why come to the
It's yeah,
US? But summers are beautiful here. If you want to go road tripping through some
yeah.
national parks, all of that. I don't know. More for
Canada too's
US.
got some spots. People go to Stampede, that huge party up in Calgary for a week. Um, yeah, and it's this enormous party where tens of thousands of people come for an entire week and just there's a ton of events, there's a bunch of parties and everything.
Okay.
It's supposed to be an amazing time, but that's a party. It's not
People do
really
like Vancouver
digital
in the
nomad
summer. I
thing.
have a couple
Yeah,
Nomad
I've heard
friends who
that.
spend a month or two in Vancouver in the summers. And the US
Hmm.
does, I mean, it's hard. I feel like we don't think of the US as like a nomad place because we are from here. It is our home. But I mean, there's amazing places to visit in the US. I feel like there really are. We don't talk about it much, but I just got back from Sedona in Arizona. It was really cool. There's some beautiful national parks. I mean, you talk about like Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, like, I don't know. There's people like California. You're from California. I lived in LA. We've lived all over. I don't know. We're not touching on that. It doesn't feel nomadic to us, but that's that. Should we move on to Southeast Asia?
Yeah, let's do it. You're gonna own
Okay.
this one. I forgot that we had Asia left.
We still have Asia. So I'm narrowing this down to Southeast Asia just because Asia is gigantic. There are many different regions if you want to check out some other places, but I'm focusing on Southeast Asia because it's like the typical digital nomad routes where a lot of people start if you have the freedom to work in this time zone. Bali is the mecca of all meccas of digital nomad life. The thing to consider there really is rainy season. So I think I've been there a couple times. I don't even remember. I think I was there September to mid-October the first time I went, and just at the end of that, it started to get into rainy season there. So April through October is going to be your best Bali time. And then other times, we have a lot of digital nomad friends who live there year around now, so you can stay. And especially if you're going just for a week of vacation, you're not going to want to go during the rainy season. It's hard to get around on your scooter and it's torrential downpours and you can't go do all the things. But if you're just there working, like you might be out at a cafe, you'll get stuck. You can't even drive home. It's raining so hard. And then
Oh wow.
yeah, it's crazy. And then it kind of clears up and you get home on your scooter and you just wear your little rain jacket and you just get wet and it's kind of a thing. But if you're indoor working, it's still fine. But yeah, April through October is the best time for Bali. Okay, let's go to Thailand, another popular hotspot. This is a funky one. Thailand's like a big, long country, and weirdly, different sides of the country have different. So, this is when temperatures are pretty decent year round. However, it's one of those where rainy and dry seasons are really going to affect you. But you can't blanket talk about Thailand as a whole because like the east side, like the islands on the east side of the country versus the west side of the country are. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but just note like whenever you decide to go to Thailand, just make sure you look up like when monsoon seasons are, because if you're on the west coast and you're like Phuket, Krabi, that kind of thing, it's going to be different than the other side with Koh Samui, Koh Phangan, Koh Tao. So do your research, and I feel like there's places to Thailand's cool because you can go somewhere all year, but it really varies depending on what months are going to be good for different sides of the country. So that's an interesting one.
Season in Chiang Mai too. Like, what isn't that a month where you just don't want to be there
Ooh,
too?
that's a good point. I forget what month it is. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, that happens in I feel like I was there when it happened. They do it in Bali. A lot of places in Southeast Asia, what Jeff is saying, they'll have like a month or so where they dedicate to burning their trash as the way that they get rid of it. And it just feels like it almost is like equivalent to smog. It's a funky smell. It feels like pollution. So do Google like burning season. It's a good reminder for when to avoid those as well.
It's looking at Chiang Mai. It looks like very, very seasonal. It looks okay. So I'm seeing that July, August, September, you get a fuckload of rain, and
Mhm.
then like around April, May, it's average 95 to 97 degrees in Chiang Mai. Whoa!
Hot. Yeah, so
Wow, that's
most
hot.
people go like
December, January.
November. Yeah, November
Yeah.
is when the Lantern Festival is that you'll see, the
Hmm.
Yipeng Lantern Festival. I think I was there in October to like through November when I was in Chiang Mai, and it was amazing there then. So yeah, do check. I guess it can get super hot, rainy other times, but yeah, Thailand's a real tricky one depending. So just look at the places. If you're thinking Thailand is your dream and you want to get there, make sure you check just like whether it's Chiang Mai or some of the islands, what the temperatures are and when the rainy season is happening there.
Next, we've got Vietnam. I have to imagine this is kind of a similar type of situation because you've got different.
It's such a it's kind of like Chile or like kind of California, how it spans like different places. So it's again,
mountainous
depending
areas, beach areas. Yeah.
Yeah. So depending where you go, it will be a little bit different, and temperatures can vary pretty drastically because it like takes so much like vertical space on a map. If you think about that. So just as a couple like guidelines, examples, like March through May is going to be best for central Vietnam. So Hoi An, which is a really popular digital nomad spot. Da Nang, another real popular nomad spot. September, November is going to be best for Hanoi. It's a cool, funky little city. I've spent some time there. And northern Vietnam. So if you think about those, I feel like when you think of Vietnam, you probably see photos of Ha Long Bay and Sapa, which are, Ha Long Bay is like those kind of like little mountainous rocks that stick up in this beautiful bay. That's fun to go. Sapa, I've been there, is like the typical really vertical rice fields that you'll see, which are fun to explore. So September to November is best there. And then December through April is better for in the south if you go to like Ho Chi Minh City or like in the Mekong Delta, some of the rivers there. So again, do your research on Vietnam, depending on when you want to go. There's sort of different times, but there's places you can kind of span the whole country sometimes, but that one's more of like I feel like temperature differences more than anything. And it can be hot and rainy June through August in a couple places, and it really varies through different parts of the country also.
Tops on my list to hit next, Sri Lanka. Tell me.
Yeah, so Sri Lanka is a funny one. It's kind of like Thailand in this way, where there's times, any time of the year you can go to Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka, when you think about this, like a lot of surfers who will go there, they'll spend some times in the south and west coast, and then like December through April. And then it's like super crowded, all the surfers there. And then the rainy season will start to come and they'll sort of migrate a little bit east to the east coast for May through September. So I think I was there in Sri Lanka in April, I want to say. So I was right on the last part where I was in Weligama, Marissa, which has my name, but it's spelled differently, and some areas there. So in the south, it was great. We were there, and right as we were leaving, like the rains were just starting to come and people were just starting to migrate east a little bit. So you got like the great migration of surfers that happens in Sri Lanka, but you kind of always find somewhere to go there, but do be mindful of which side of the country you're going depending on rain.
Okay. Is that everything on our list? That is.
I thought there was more. We just went through so many different locations. That was probably overwhelming if you're listening. Maybe you had some spots in mind that you're taking notes on particular places you want. But I think even as a whole, this reminds me, you know how people are like, you go to school sometimes not to learn something specific. You're like learning how to learn. To me, this was like learning how to even think about which countries to go to or which regions based on, again, like we said, hot, cold, rainy, dry. Or Jeff also says bugs or not. That typically comes with the rain. Yeah, anything else you want to add to just like the overall patterns or thoughts as someone's thinking like, where on earth do I go at certain times of year?
If we missed something, it's easy enough to chat GPT. It gave me a bunch of things that I didn't even consider, especially with like different parts of South America and bugs and humidity and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, anything that you need to know, just send us a note. We may have been there. If not, you can just chat GPT it. Other than that, keep sending in requests, hello@beachcommute.com. Or you can comment, if you're listening on Spotify, comment directly on each individual episode. We've been getting a lot of fun stuff in there, which I love. You can just comment on the specifics of the episode, or you can actually make a request directly in the comments as well. We read all of them and we respond to all of them.
Yeah, so and if you're not already on our email list, go to beachcommute.com/email. We send out tons of remote jobs every single day that actually let you work from anywhere that are hiring that day. Other tips, info about the podcast. So if you're thinking about living this lifestyle or looking for a new fully remote job, it's definitely your best bet. And if wherever you're listening, if you haven't already done so, if you could click the 5-star review, whatever, leave a comment if you want. 2 away. Amazing. So soon we will do an ayahuasca episode when we hit 100. reviews there. We love your comments. We love your reviews. And I think that's it. Any last words, Jeff?
Nope, that's it. We will see you next week.